Okay, we're back, folks, with Peter Van Scoyoc, the town supervisor from the town of East Hampton. And welcome, Peter.
Thank you, Michael. It's great to be back.
And the last time we spoke, that was last week. It was right before the big weekend of some of the rallies. How did you feel that went here in East Hampton?
Well, I think I was very proud of the way the rally here went on Sunday. You know, we had two local young people who had come up through the school, the high school, East Hampton, and they put on an extremely well organized, peaceful, but really, I think forceful in terms of putting the message out what this was all about. And they had a number of speakers. The selection of speakers that they had, I thought, was fantastic. You know, it was a great opportunity for me to be there and to listen and to participate and show my support and solidarity for that cause. But
did you have a lot of people coming up to you, Peter? Like we were just before we came on the air. It's kind of hard for you to hide anywhere, being 6'4".
It's surprising.
So, even behind a mask.
Even with the mask on, a number of people, would call out my name or say something to me, and I'd look and try and figure out who it was. And some people you can tell even with the mask, and some people you just don't know.
Right.
But super well attended, very well organized. Talia Hayes and Anna Hoffman just did a fantastic job putting that together, and it just was really uplifting. We heard from speakers, Reverend Leandra from St. Luke's Episcopal, and Reverend Walter Thompson from Calvary Baptist Church. You had Travis Wilkes, who's in the Black Lives Matter movement. He spoke very eloquently. Rich Burns, the superintendent of East Hampton Schools, spoke. There were many, many, many young people there, which, for me, that was the best part of it, because, to see that next generation really staking claim to democracy and saying that this matters, that equal rights for everyone matter, that until everyone's rights are truly secured, we don't really have a democracy and nobody's rights are safe. So, to see that involvement really, I think, was encouraging. That was the best part of it for me.
Well, what was impressive to me when I drove by the next morning, I mean, there had to be over 1,000 people there, wouldn't you think? But the place where there wasn't a scrap of paper left. There was not a mess left that I saw, unless your crews got there early. I don't know.
No, there were. You know what? I don't think the village crews had to do any pickup. In fact, I think I heard Barbara Borsak, Deputy Mayor Borsak, and Mayor Lawler on the radio talking about the march the day after, and they said there was no garbage. Everybody picked everything up. They made an effort to really do this in a way that was very respectful of the village and the town and those around and the marchers, and again, very peaceful, very uplifting. So I'm just so proud of our community, that we can express our First Amendment rights in a way like that, and have such a great outcome.
That's great. And how are things going with the new phase opening on Wednesday?
So Wednesday was, phase 2 reopening. Barbershops, hair salons, offices could all open. And the governor also bumped up the outdoor dining component as a separate announcement. So we'd been talking about putting together a plan and, got that out the door, albeit we discussed the final draft on Tuesday at the work session. And got that out the door, and businesses were opening Wednesday morning, and we're still in the process of educating restaurant owners and delis and whatnot as to what the outdoor dining safety protocols are, and there's an application process and approval. Fire marshal does inspections to ensure that there's safe egress and ingress for public safety, as well as the proper spacing of tables and queuing of lines to protect the public health. But it's certainly safer to be outdoors. So, we've been working hard to expand on a temporary basis the ability to have outdoor dining. That required an executive order by myself to be filed on Wednesday to suspend temporarily our zoning restrictions, which only allow for 30% of the restaurant's occupancy to be placed outdoors. We're going to allow up to 100% of that interior approved zoning occupancy to be placed outdoors, provided that they can meet all the necessary spacing requirements on their property. To be able to expand into the public right-of-ways is a little bit more lengthy process. In Amagansett and in Montauk, the Main Street right-of-ways in many cases go right up to the fronts of the stores and restaurants. It encompasses the entire sidewalk area on either side of the state highway. So that process, I reached out immediately to my connection, New York State Regional Commissioner Rich Cawson at the Department of Transportation. I had a nice conversation with him, very positive one, about what the state's doing. And because the state receives federal highway dollars, there was a process that they had to complete with the federal government to allow for the use of those right-of-ways by the public and private entities, not-for-profits, without charging a fee or a lease. So they've worked their way through that process. He said that, by end of business Friday, he expected to have those regulations to me. I received them this morning. We're already applying to allow for our businesses to expand out into the public right-of-ways, but at this point, at least the state right-of-ways, we don't have a means to be able to give permission immediately. The town right-of-ways, we have more authority over those. There are some situations where existing parking lots are not in the roadway, but they're in the town right-of-way. Those areas could be used for outdoor dining, provided that they have safety barriers between the roadway. So all of this will require a review. We've turned around the first day. I think there were more than a dozen applications that were filed and approved day one. It's kind of all hands on deck to review and process these as quickly as possible, so that we're certain that they're operating within the safety protocols for public health, and also to allow them to get to work and start serving patrons as soon as possible. We know it's a very limited season, and restaurants have been hit hard, maybe harder than most other sectors of our economy right now.
Sure.
So we look forward to that continuing.
I guess this weekend will be that'll be the real test for it, with the weekend here and being a little bit busier. And we talk about on our show a lot something we call the law of unintended consequences, and that's when something's put into effect and then there's a ripple effect of all these other things that happen because of that. And there's one, right? We're talking about someone will say, oh yeah, let's just allow them to have outside dining, and then all these little things keep popping up. Like, well, wait a minute, that's a right of way. That's this and that, and it's great that you and your team are so quick to act on that for all these things that are popping up. So that's awesome. Now, I also hear that that there's a new testing site opening up in Montauk, as you mentioned on this show that was going to happen. But how's that going?
Well, I believe they are up and running. That's in addition to the site that we have here on Panago Place, which has been operating for several weeks. The one in Montauk, originally the hospital had reached out to me about finding a location in Montauk specifically. We did work with them for a while, and ultimately they decided to work with the school district and put that pop-up site at the Montauk School in what they call the lower lot, but it's really only somewhat lower than the front lot to the right of the school entrance. My understanding is that started the first day. They had over 40 people signed up Both of these testing sites are by appointment only,
Right.
but you can call in and make an appointment. The Montauk site is also being sponsored by the Montauk Chamber, in that the chamber is paying for chamber members' employees to be tested. I think it's important that the widest possible testing of the public and of workers is really important to know who might have the disease, who might be asymptomatic and spreading the disease. So certainly helps protect the public health by having more testing sites. We had over, I think, 466 tests given as of Wednesday this week at the East Hampton site. And
Wow.
the way this is set up is Wednesdays and Fridays, they test at Pantago, and on Tuesdays and Thursdays, they're testing in Montauk. So there's 4 consecutive days a week that we have testing. Also, I'm working with County Executive Steve Ballone to get an antibody testing site here. At this point, it's probably only going to be for 1 week, one consecutive week, unless we can manage to figure out a way to expand that. But I'll be announcing that hopefully soon once we get the details of that worked out. Again, antibody testing would test to see if you've been exposed to the disease, if you've had the disease. I know a lot of people are wondering if that really bad cold or virus that they had in late February, early March, or even in April was COVID. And there is some thought that having had the disease offers some immunity to reinfection by it. So I think once that becomes proven to be certainly helpful to know if you've had it or not, and you might be at much lower risk.
Yeah, that was actually my next question was about the antibody. So thank you for answering that. And right now, currently, I think they are giving the antibody test over at the hospital, but you need a doctor referral in order to make
Yes.
that happen. I think that is available, right?
And yes, there's the hospital will test for antibodies with a doctor's script or prescription. The same is true with the local lab in Amagansett. If you have a doctor's
Right.
script, they'll do that testing in Amagansett as well. But we're
That's
looking
great.
to try and get some free testing of antibody testing here. So hopefully I'll be able to announce the particulars of that maybe as soon as by the next show next week.
Wonderful. That would be great. Peter, let me just ask you, just on a gut level, like, what's your feel? What are you feeling for this summer? Just outside the box, like, what's your gut feeling about what's going to happen? I mean, this is never happened before, right? So, and it'll probably never happen again, we hope, in our lifetime, right? So, what do you see for the summer?
Well, I'm optimistic, but I'm also cautiously optimistic. We've seen other areas that opened up, and little concern was given to maintaining the ongoing safety protocols, and that those areas are, having spikes right now. We see that in Houston and Texas, and places in
Right.
Florida, Arizona, and whatnot. And that could certainly happen here. Our community's been very careful, I think, and that's resulted in the lowest infection rate of any town within the New York metropolitan Long Island region, and even portions, Westchester and further up the Hudson corridor there.
Yep.
And that, I think, is partially due to early steps we took, but to maintain that with the influx of people from the center of the pandemic who came to second homes or rented houses out here, it really, I think, shows that the general public paid a lot of attention and was careful. We can't let our guard down. People still need to be wearing masks when they're in public, practice social distancing, and good sound hygiene, wash your hands a lot, and disinfect surfaces. If we just follow those basic rules throughout the summer, we're going to have a really nice summer. It'll be a little bit of an inconvenience wearing the mask when it gets hot and whatnot, but if we can do that, I think we can get through this summer without a spike. We'll be, a lot of people are already here, but people are going to be out and about more and more. So again,
Right.
Follow those guidelines. I think we'll be okay.
I agree. And really, it's starting to become the norm now to wear the mask and to have the mask. A old folks like me, I sometimes I forget my mask, have to go back to my car or whatever. But I think following the rules has really proven effective for the town of East Hampton. And so I just want to thank you guys, Peter, for you and the town board and really the local government, because you can't deny the results. I mean, they're on paper. How good we've done out here, and that is, you guys took the lead, but it really is the local people who have followed the rules. There's always going to be exceptions, and but I think everybody's done a real good job. So I'm looking forward to the summer myself. Once again, Peter, thank.
Yeah, I was going to say you can take the lead, but if people don't follow, you don't get anywhere. So again, a lot of praise to our local community for following the lead and getting us through this.
Yeah. Once again, Peter, thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to come see us, and we'll see you next Friday at the same time. And have yourself a good weekend.
Thanks, Michael. Everybody stay safe and be well. Thanks for having me on the show again.
You too. Bye-bye.